Welcome back to the channel. My name's Ed. This is Alex.
Hey.
We're both on the Data Science and AI Masters course at the University of Liverpool. And today I'm asking Alex a few questions because it's a conversion course. It's quite interesting to hear about people's backgrounds, etc. So yeah, grab a cup of tea and enjoy the video. First question is effectively like, what was your background like before university? Like, had you ever done anything in sort of technology related before? Were you interested in smartphones when you were younger, sort of like I was?
Well, I was a Mahusive nerd
Nice.
growing up, and so I was actually quite big into programming and stuff when I was younger, but then through a mixture of hubris and general foolhardiness, I decided that I would try and make an entire video game by myself, which did not end well.
That sounds pretty cool though.
Yeah,
what sort of age was that, which you were like,
I was
make
like
a whole video game?
15, and I had like a working like prototype,
Yeah.
but my animation was a bit shit for a
What-
start.
what
And I
was-
didn't really know how to 3D model properly. Like the basic
Yeah.
game worked, and it was like reasonably fun to play. It's just
Yeah.
execution
Yeah.
zero.
Oh well, it's like, I don't know, the programming background to it, I
Yeah.
suppose. What did you do that in then? Did you use code? Because I know that you can, from like small things I've seen, I know you can make games using
Yeah. It's like I
Yeah.
mostly used I used Unreal Engine, which means that I was able to mostly do it with like the flowchart thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, like so after that I couldn't be bothered anymore. So I sort of shifted towards other priorities, like politics, which is what I eventually went to do my degree in.
Yeah.
Yeah, did well in a couple of like debating competitions and shit like
Yeah,
that.
is that what you did? Is that so? I have no idea what like a politics degree involves. I assume it's just a lot of like discussion sessions around the table.
It's arguing with people and writing essays.
Sounds like a interesting time.
Yeah, no, it's good fun.
Yeah.
It's all very sporting. Like,
Yeah.
you know, I feel like if you're going to do a politics degree, you're going to have a certain respect for differing opinions.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah, I suppose that's good. Whilst like in my biology degree, there was such a contrast as to whether you were on
Yeah.
like biology and environmental science or whether you were on like biochem and biomedical.
Right.
Because all the biochemical people were very like clinical people,
Yeah.
and all the biology and environmental and zoology people, a lot of them are quite hippie-like, as I potentially am, and so like I don't know, a vast majority of them would be like vegetarian, and just like the main example, and a vast majority of the people on like biochemistry I found weren't, which is quite interesting, and so there was a lot of like cancel culture, almost cancelling each other out, which is a big thing nowadays.
Yeah. Weirdly, there was like very little of that in politics.
Yeah.
Like the only time that there was like any protest towards anything relating to our course was when a prominent Corbynista who'd said some nasty things in the past came to give a guest lecture.
Right.
And like, so ironically, the only time we had like a cancel protest
Yeah.
was actually like the Jewish Society and the Conservative Society.
Oh, okay.
So like, not the typical, like not the people you assume are going to be the ones doing that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, in general, it's quite tolerant actually.
Yeah.
Like my lecturers were all very like quite open-minded people, I think.
I suppose they have to do lots of reading around things I don't really know at all. But so doing the politics degree, a lot of talking about issues or talking about things. To put it stupidly simply, what then like made you think towards technology again potentially, and basically what made you make the jump from like politics degree to data science and AI? Because that's quite a big jump for, I don't know, people who didn't know what was happening under the surface. Sort of what made you feel?
Well, as I say, like I already knew how to program, so when lockdown hit, I was originally going to do a master's in something relating to politics, like political media, political communication, something like that.
Right.
And then I decided that wasn't for me. So I thought maybe, I'll do a law conversion. It's a pretty standard route for an indecisive politics grad. And then I decided that wasn't for me. So over the second lockdown, I just sort of started messing around first with iOS development. And I was like, this is a bit boring. And then I was like, let's look at something a bit more cutting edge. AI is cool. I've always wanted to understand AI.
Yeah.
So I started teaching myself, the necessary statistical stuff and how to program neural networks and things like that.
Yeah.
Taught myself a bit of web development and stuff as well. Just
I feel like web development, from what I've seen, is quite a it's almost part of everyone's journey. So from the various podcasts I've listened to, everyone seems to have gone through web development at some point. So even the Gymshark CEO and founder, Ben something or other, he started web development. Ali Abdaal started in web development. Lots of people seem to do it, and from there you can almost pursue whatever you want as soon as you can make websites.
Well,
or it leads to other interests alternatively, because there is JavaScript in there, which is quite which is the big language at the moment for learning things, almost more than Python, I'd say.
Well, it depends what you're doing. I think
true, but every so obviously machine learning is still vaguely Python based, though Swift is potentially being used for that. I think at Google TensorFlow. So I think
really?
I might be wrong, but I think the guy who was running machine learning at Apple or something went to Google's machine learning and brought Swift with it, because Swift is very similar to Python in that.
Ooh, is it? I mean, I've used Swift and it's very strongly typed. It's much more I don't know what it's like under the hood. Maybe under the hood it's like Python, but on the surface it's very much more like a C language.
Oh right, because I assumed that
syntax wise.
Yeah, because I haven't used it, but I assumed that it was sort of very easy to read. And so it's not like if you were to, I don't know, program PHP or something, where you spend half your time putting in semicolons, etc.
Yeah.
I thought it was sort of relatively easy to read, and so therefore it was useful. Also the fact that, I can't remember what type of errors there are, but it gives you errors whilst you're writing the code instead of once you're running the code.
Yeah, no, that is a good thing with Swift actually. And also it basically, the easiest way to describe its syntax is a slightly simpler version of JavaScript.
Right.
It's you've got similar kind of punctuation. Everything's kind of in blocks. I think it's compiled though, which is, as opposed to Python, which is old-fashioned and interpreted.
I weirdly miss JavaScript in Python, because I used to rely on the semicolons to let me know where I was vaguely, and now that they've disappeared, it's a bit confusing for my brain.
I like Python because it's I don't know. Can you describe a programming language as unpretentious? It's it's not interested in being fancy or looking clever. It's what is the easiest way to write a really complicated algorithm?
Yeah.
In as few lines of code as possible. And it's great fun. Okay, it's not quite. There's people do code golf. Python isn't quite a code golfing language, but it's almost there. It's about as close to code golfing, if you're good at it. It's about as close to code golfing as you can get, while still having production ready code.
Yeah.
I've made some absolutely hideous list comprehensions and stuff. Just really long iterators that have multiple they can't have multiple conditions, but they have really complicated conditions composed of several expressions. It's great.
Well, I'm trying, because I'm finding, so I've done a couple of small Python courses, but as I said, I'm struggling with the conversion from JavaScript, but because I've been doing everything in R for my undergrad, so my transition was a biology undergrad. There's a lot of database stuff in that, because biology is basically you take a load of big data and you do stats on it. So that meant that I used R a lot, And R, I don't know if you've used R.
I know about R, but I've never used it.
You don't want to. It's very like specific to statistical testing, and I know you can do other things in it, but I am not the biggest fan in the world. But I know I can use it, so it's like a tool in my belt, The
thing I've noticed is that it's got much more mathsy looking notation.
Yeah.
It's like, you like the thing, like you can make like a normal distribution by almost describing it how you would mathematically.
No, it is like that. Though what I find is also a bit of a turn off about R is it's a really unsexy language, to put it simply. Basically, because obviously when you're writing like, I don't know, Python, JavaScript, whatever, you can use whatever code editor you want, and you can and you could do that with R. However, it's like strongly
kind of need to use RLab.
Well, I use RStudio.
Oh, RStudio, that's the one.
Yeah. And RStudio is like the least sexy like interface ever, and it's just a bit like horrible to use. And so that's the thing which puts me off it, partly is because I just don't feel like cool doing it, which sounds bad as a reason to do something, but I think it's quite important because
this video was paid for by VS Code Gang.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, though Aloki was using. I've gone through. What have you tried then, like code editors?
Used Atom.
Yeah.
VS Code, Xcode. Those are kind of like the main ones that I've used.
Yeah. So well, the web development course I was used Atom primarily, but I was looking into it, and Atom's a bit of a weird one, because it's sort of a middle ground between VS Code and Sublime Text, and also Atom was running really slowly on my laptop. For anyone who doesn't know, I've got a 2014 MacBook Air, so it's pretty terrible. But like it was glitching out like when writing code. It was not good.
Yeah.
So I switched to VS Code. Actually, no, I switched to Sublime because I knew it'd be easier on my laptop, and then switched to VS because when I discovered it could run, because you can do a lot more VS than Sublime. But apparently, a pretty standard thing to do is to run most of your stuff in VS Code. But if you need to do small things, then do it in Sublime because it's such a lightweight IDE. But yeah, I currently don't have Sublime installed though, because I just don't. I'm not good enough in order to need like a big text editor and a small one.
I don't really see the point in that. Like,
I don't know. I think there is application. Like I found lots of articles about it. But I don't have that need currently.
And like this is the reason why why I'm a data scientist rather than a computer scientist. Yeah. Like that sounds like the sort of thing that application developers need to think about. I don't need to think about applications. I just want to make some ugly ass algorithms.
Yeah.
I want to make some chunky blocks of abstract mathematical logic that are utterly indecipherable to all humans.
Yeah. Exactly. So you said you tried a bit of iOS development.
Yeah.
Was the only postgrad master course you looked at this one, being the AI and data science? Because there aren't that many out there in the UK anyway, which are similar to this, because there's a lot of just computer science conversion courses.
Yeah.
And I saw personally there wasn't much point in those.
No.
Because they can't teach you everything, first of all, in computer science undergrad, and half the stuff they were teaching you were
very basic.
Yeah, which to be honest you could learn online on Udemy. And the way I chose it was I was like, AI, pretty cool, as you say. Like, I'll probably need a teacher for that because it's pretty complicated. And data science potentially as well. And so that's where I was like, this degree plus the year in industry was sort of ticked lots of boxes for me. Did you find similar for you? Or?
Yeah, so to be honest, the only real contenders were Liverpool.
Yeah.
With this course. And there was also the only computer science conversions that actually like sound good are like the ICL and the UCL ones.
Yeah.
But like they are super intense and like really hard to get into. I applied to ICL and didn't get in. But again, they're still quite general. So, it's kind of almost like doing a law conversion, but with computer science with those ones. Whereas this was like I'd say that the workload we've had is like fairly standard for a master's so far. Like it's completely manageable. Like if you go to lectures and do your own notes and whatever, it's not too bad. But I've got time for like lots of other hobbies and stuff. And it's really weird. It's kind of like being a fresher again almost.
It's so weird because whenever I go sort of to events or anything, people assume you're a fresher.
Yeah.
Maybe because I've been told I have a baby face.
Yeah, same.
And so it's an issue because you're like, I'm actually 4th year. And when I tell people they're like, I'm 4th year and I've got a degree under my belt, they're always like, you're so old.
Yeah. Well, no, people are like, genuinely, I've had it several times where like, I'll be like, oh yeah, in my undergrad years, and they're like, what?
Yeah.
You're not a fresher.
Yeah. Well, you must also find that difficult being in halls because surely you're surrounded vaguely by freshers as well.
Nah, there's like a postgrad block.
Oh, okay.
Or like most of a block, which is just postgrads.
Yeah.
And like the bit of the block which isn't postgrads is like mature freshers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So
they're like 19 or 20.
Yeah. It's weird how 18-year-olds are just like a different level.
Yeah, it's like there's like this weird segregation between like freshers and then everyone else. Like it's cool to like hang out with like anyone who's like if they're 19 and above, like, but I don't know, there's something weird about 18.
They're just a bit like they're just a bit wild and like I don't know how to explain it. They don't. I can't handle them.
Yeah.
They're just not my kind of people.
Yeah.
I went to a house party probably like a month and a half ago from a guy I met at the gym. And all the people I met there were going into 2nd year.
Yeah.
And they're all having sort of conversations and I was like, I've had these conversations before.
Yeah.
I'm past these conversations.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like, it was a good house party, so thanks for inviting me again, Joe, if you ever want this. But it was just a bit funny to experience that. But yeah, the uni life, have you been finding it this year? Because you, like me, did you go straight from your undergrad into this? No, you hadn't.
I had a year out.
Smart.
And because of COVID, that basically meant that I was away from campus for 18 months. You know, so like so obviously we had to leave uni in March 2020 and then finish up our degree by July.
Yeah.
Still haven't had my graduation yet. It's next year.
Nice. So mine.
And then like I was going to start again in September that year, and I was like, for one thing, I don't really want to do this course. For another thing, being in uni this year is going to be really crap.
Yeah.
So I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna sit at home and make use of mother's hospitality.
Yeah, no, definitely. Definitely. Yeah, no, uni last year was absolutely dreadful. I literally spent the whole time at my desk in my room.
Yeah,
I went to campus probably about 5 times. And so like I'm also finding this year being back at uni, like I'm trying to make the most of absolutely everything.
I'm just on it like I'm just doing too many things.
Yeah,
I'm gonna.
I suppose, like, at least you're doing loads, and now you can cut back. Like the thing which I chose, so I don't know if I told you, but because I've been doing sailing, but because it's all of Wednesday afternoon and all of Saturday and all of Sunday, it takes up too much time. Because it means then I can't do other things.
True.
Which is the issue. Though it's really fun. And so I didn't go for enough things. So currently I'm on the lookout for new hobbies.
There's loads. It's just like, I mean, if you like, with any kind of like university club or society, like often if you like email someone on the committee, like, can I come along and try it sometime? They're usually obliged because they're always looking for new subs.
Yeah.
And like, for instance, at Taekwondo, like they'll often, if somebody new comes along, they won't make them pay for like the first couple of sessions.
Yeah.
And, you know, they'll give them a taster. It's like any sports club, really.
Yeah. I've just got to find ones which I like the look of, basically. And also find ones aren't packed because a lot of them you have to book for things. So I was going to do, I originally had plans to do sort of yoga every day with the yoga society.
Yeah.
But all those get booked out so
Not
quickly.
all of them. I often go to like the Monday afternoon ones.
Oh, right.
They're quite nice.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
I need to get one.
It's like Monday and Tuesday. Yeah, it's always the Wednesday ones that get booked out.
I suppose so, yeah.
But because they're all after it's weird. Like they can only, a lot of the societies can only like book out rooms like weird times in the week. So like, it's a bit messy. Like universities are a bit strict with the COVID restrictions at the moment still. Like beyond like any other kind of public space. So it means that there's often like really strict room limits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like there'll be a room where in normal times you'd have like 20 people and they'll only have like 10 or 12, which obviously puts a strain on like demand.
Yeah, but alright, well I need to get better. I'm also just low-key very scared because I've like never done it in person before.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh no, it's great. The atmosphere is amazing.
Is it?
Because like you've got someone there like pushing you.
Yeah.
And like, especially with yoga, you can kind of like add your own little flair in. Like if you can do the bind.
Yeah.
You can. You know.
I can't do any of those. Like, because I was doing a lot last year when I was basically living, just me and like my housemate Dennis. And because there's no one else in the house, and then like summer came along and I was at my parents' house, and it's lovely, but it's all very carpeted and very cushy. Yeah. It's really hard to do exercise there.
Yeah.
And also it just feels a bit odd doing it with your ex-parents around. Yeah. I find, and now here, the living room, like even though it's nice and I could do it there, I don't really want like my housemates to come down and I'll be in like seal pose and I'm like, what are you doing? I'm like, just doing some yoga. Like, let me get in the zone.
Get them to join in, like go in the garden, have a little class.
Oh mate, have you seen the garden?
I haven't seen your garden.
Oh, it's literally that like, you've got a treat in hand at the moment when you see it. The wall is quite entertaining. There's like shards of glass, like cemented in.
That's classic Liverpool.
Yeah. But yeah, so I will. Yeah, I just need to figure it out because I went
classic Kensington.
Classic, mate. I'm starting to. Yeah, it's a good place though.
Yeah, no, you got it. Like there is a certain charm to the shitty student bit of town. Like the one in Nottingham is a place called Lenton, and like Lenton itself is quite nice, but like on either side it's surrounded by really dodgy neighbourhoods.
Right. Yeah.
Like the neighbour, like Nottingham has a nickname of Shottingham.
Right.
For a reason. So. It's quite funny because you've got like this really like leafy suburb where like around which all the students live, and then either side it's just the Wild West.
That sounds. I'd never heard of that about Nottingham. But it was similar in like Southampton because the main student place is Portswood and surrounded by it isn't like the nicest area.
No.
But what I find really interesting about here is how most of the students live in Smithdown,
which is miles away.
Like it's too far.
It's so far. Like I know a girl who lives in Smithy, and like she hasn't got a bus pass, so she just like she's on an integrated master, so like she should be going in every day. Yeah. But like because she's got to travel so far, like she just misses so much uni.
Yeah, and then you just spend half your time just walking places. Like that's why I chose this house because it was like as close as I could be that halls but wasn't halls because they're cheaper. But because I understood like I'd be going to and then maybe coming back because I might need to grab something if you're sort of that far away, but also you're that far away from the town and like the reason you're here is to like be in the town and be at the uni. But if you're so far away, how can you really do anything? Yeah,
I mean, if you can afford it, halls are a very good play for a master's degree because you're on campus, and typically in most places, if you're on campus, you're near to town. It's not always the case. Nottingham wasn't like that. It was actually closer to town to live away from uni. Because uni was kind of out in the suburbs. Yeah. But here, definitely, like, I live in halls. And literally less than a mile walking out my front door, I'm right in the middle of Liverpool. Yeah. Like, I'm right on Bold Street. I'm right in Concert Square. Like, I can just, like, say I want to meet someone for lunch. I can, like, just scramble out the door and in 15 minutes, I'm in, like, the most bustling street in much of England. Yeah.
I've definitely found that, like, Liverpool is a lot busier than any other place I've ever been to.
It's so like energetic. The other day, I was even like I was just going to a Wilko's right to get some like kitchen apparatus. Yeah. And like the atmosphere in the like shitty shopping mall where the Wilko's was way more lit than any shopping mall has any right to be. Like it was like stereotypical like Scouse kind of like. Everyone was wearing tracksuits and there was like house music playing, But it was energetic. And like, I come from Milton Keynes, which is a city entirely composed of shopping malls, and a city that is entirely lacking in energy. So it's like, even the shopping malls in Liverpool are more exciting than Milton Keynes.
I find that, like, if ever I bring people around, or the first few times I went to the centre, I just couldn't stop smiling.
Yeah.
Because you just see people and everyone's having a great time. And what I love in particular about Liverpool is that, so, like, in every other city in the UK, like, young people go out on a Saturday night. Yeah. Old people generally stay at home. In Liverpool, everyone is out. Like, if you're a pensioner, you're out on the town at, like, an Irish bar on, like, a Friday, Saturday night.
It's like, last night I was out with this girl and we went to like this really like normally very like laid back, very trendy kind of cocktail bar. There was a whole fucking trade union conference in there. Like like, you know, like half the bus conductors in Birmingham just chilling there drinking like Cosmos.
Oh, it's just like, yeah, it's such a great place. If no one's ever like been to Liverpool, and I hadn't been to Liverpool really before coming here, you've got to go to Liverpool. My housemate found a sort of bucket list, and admittedly the guy who wrote it was from Crosby, which is like just over there. But he put Liverpool as a night out in Liverpool as the fourth best thing on the bucket list, as in like above the pyramids and above everything. It really is like the bustling heart of the UK, which I didn't realise before.
Yeah.
But yeah, Liverpool's quite the place. So if we're advertising Liverpool for you, come to Liverpool.
Cultural scene is great as well. Like there's loads of great art galleries and like theatres and anything like that.
There's just so much to do. I'm actually so lost as to because I wanted to go and do all of it.
Yeah.
But even if I went out for dinner every single night here,
I'm not going to get through everything.
yeah. Well, it's literally the joke in Southampton used to be like you open the door and there's nothing to do, and like I don't know, there's approximately like 8 clubs in Southampton, but realistically you only go to about 3 or 4 like regularly. Whilst there's so many clubs, so many bars, so many cafes, so many museums, so many galleries,
and it's like it's got that thing that London has as well, where there's kind of like different regions to the city as well. So like there's the city centre itself, which you can further subdivide into like rope walks and Cavern Quarter and like the docks and so forth. And then out of the centre you've got interesting places as well, like the Baltic Triangle, the North Docks. Yeah. Like where like a lot of the more kind of sort of trendy hipstery
I was up walking by like the North Docks a few weeks ago, and I was by it's the massive building. It's like perpendicular to the river, and it's got sort of windows shattered, etc. But it's huge. Assuming it was an old like a factory or something. And I just walked past, like it was just derelict all around basically. And I walked past this bar. Yeah. And oh my god, was the music so loud, and there were so many people vibing. Was that nothing else was around?
Is that Invisible Wind Factory or something?
Might have been.
I'm not sure. I haven't really been to the North Docks, but I know it's cool.
I've come across like they're just a few places which are just dotted, and you'll just hear like bass, and you'll be like, wow, like where did that come from?
It's like just on my street there is an abandoned petrol station which has been turned into a pop-up pub.
That's so sick.
Yeah. I haven't been yet, but like I walk past and they'll have like a jazz band playing, and like you just go and grab a pint from the side of the road.
Yeah, the live music's also such a big thing, which I didn't realise because I read about it before coming here. Yeah. But like every night, certain pubs are gonna have live music.
Oh yeah. Oh mate, there's nothing more fun than going into like an Irish pub, getting shit faced, and like just there's a guy just belting out absolute Ed Sheeran bangers.
I absolutely love it. Though I failed you the other day though when we were at whatever the Irish pub on the Compside pub crawl. Yeah. And we tried that like Irish whiskey, and I just like I couldn't handle it. I need to stick to beer clearly.
What were you?
Well, because you like downed it at the bar.
Oh right, yeah.
And everyone was like, down it, and I was like, mate, I can't down it. And like we went outside and I was like sipping it really slowly. But like Liverpool's just the place. I think like as uni lifestyles go, you don't realise quite, and I didn't realise because it's so far away from down south being up here. It's like 4-hour drive. That there is so much, because I sort of assumed being a south person, I mean it sounds bad, but I assumed that everything was in London.
No,
and
that's not true.
Yeah, but now I obviously know that, and I'm excited to go to Manchester to check it out, and like head up to Edinburgh. Because my housemate's from there, he says it's beautiful. But I just didn't realise there was so much, and I think Liverpool, just as like not even just a student place, but as a place to live, place
is just great.
And also the architecture here as well is
mad,
awesome.
Is so much beautiful Gothic revivalism. Including the cathedral.
Yeah.
Love a bit of Gothic revivalism.
Yeah, that's a new word I've heard today. But yeah, definitely. Well, it's just like, but also like walking around the campus, I feel like grand.
Yeah.
Because you've got all these buildings. There's sphinxes on top of our building. I don't know if you've seen them.
But
if you look above the archway.
Yeah.
But it just makes you feel like you're part of something big.
Yeah.
And it just makes you want to like learn and just be better, and it's just really enjoyable place to be, basically.
Yeah, and the architecture, like I'd say Liverpool has, or like the centre of Liverpool campus is especially pretty, because like I think because I'm just fond of like late Victorian, as I say, Gothic revival stuff, but also like just compared to like Notts is really nice, it's really pretty, there's lots of beautiful parks. But, it's a bit Art Deco. I like a bit of Art Deco, but it's a bit plain by comparison.
Yeah.
Where are the sphinxes in Nottingham?
It is true. Like just everything.
Yeah.
Like what's the name of the gallery literally beside our building? The big red one.
Victoria Gallery.
That one. That's really nice.
I haven't been in yet. I've been meaning to.
You should go in. So if you go in there, they've got this small exhibit about this artist dude who came over from somewhere. I'm explaining this really badly. I can't remember his name. But he's got some really interesting paintings, and he's explaining his life and sort of his time in Liverpool. And he was a married man. He came over and he sort of found interest in this daughter of the family he was living with. But then the mum saw this and was like, I think you need to move on. So he painted a picture of what is it? Like a beaver, I think, with like blood in its mouth, and gave it to the girl. He was like, and you can find
that's
this,
not creepy,
and it's a bit like strange. But then if you go to the Central Library in Liverpool, there's a massive book which he's drawn loads of wildlife in. It's really cool. But just the fact that like everything in Liverpool again just links to other things, and there's so much.
Yeah, I was like the other day. I was a little bit early for I was meeting some people for drinks. I was a little bit early, so I just sort of wandered around the bit between kind of Rope Walks and Chinatown.
Yeah.
Where normally you don't think there's that much going on, but then like you look around and there's like an art walk. There was like this weird little museum that I'd never heard of, but is apparently quite good. There's like some really cool restaurants I wanted to try, like hidden in like tiny back streets. It's just like really cool. Like literally one of the best, if you ever come to like Liverpool, and this kind of applies to like any big city really, like just like wander around, give yourself an afternoon or two just to like wander around and like really look, because like you will just find really cool stuff hidden about.
Just like as you say, in the most unexpected places in Liverpool, you will find absolute gems.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And I really so much want to try. So I really want to go to the bombed out church.
Oh yeah,
that would be sick. I've got so many places on Bold Street I want to try. I've tried Leaf too many times.
What's Leaf?
Leaf is it's a tea shop, so it's right at my avenue. They also do coffee, but they've got like a great breakfast selection, like great vegan breakfast selection. And I love Leaf.
I have a rather financially destructive addiction to bubble tea at the moment.
That sounds. I don't know if they do bubble tea, but they have a whole menu.
Yeah.
Of like every type of loose leaf tea, and they've got like this little tea cafetiere things, and it's the place if you want to spend like 12 quid on lunch.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But it is really good.
Yeah. No, there are quite a lot of like, I have been for a few like lunches and dinners, and it's like it's not too expensive actually. Like if you go to somewhere on Bold Street, like you could get like a perfectly good meal for like £15 per person. Like, and it'd be quite fancy, and like high end. So that's another really cool thing.
Yeah, it's just Yeah, it's a cool place to go. Anyway, to move you back onto
back
the questions, because we've just been like, I don't know, veering off about Liverpool, and I feel like anyone watching right now is probably just hyped about Liverpool, to be honest. Like, they won't even care what degree they're doing.
Great content.
Oh, what can I say? I don't know. It's definitely like the most interesting video I've ever had. So, like, it's literally my final question was, so doing this course in data science and AI, do you want to, in the future, progress onto data science and AI, or sort of that sort of computer science industry, or do you want to bring the skills you've learnt back to something else?
So my kind of thinking is that, like, the advantage that people like us have as people with kind of external knowledge who've come into like a computer science based degree is like we've got a whole load of soft skills from somewhere else, which typically you don't find in the computer people, right? So for instance, like bio-inspired algorithms are like very important in like current data science literature. So people who understand biology are very useful, right? Obviously, there's a big hoo-ha about the ethics of AI and the social effects of AI-driven applications, for instance, social media and so forth. So with a politics background, I have the kind of intellectual foundations for dealing with those kinds of questions. So for me personally, I think I've come to really enjoy the mathematical side of it. Things like machine learning, meta heuristics, all of this stuff where it's trying to find solutions to problems that don't have a convenient mathematical solution. That kind of thing is something that I'd really like to be involved in, like engineering. But if there is some sort of like social or civic application for that, then of course I'd jump on it.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm still looking around. Like there's a suggestion that you should, if you're doing a year in industry, you should start applying, like hit the ground running for like all these big grad schemes. And like I've kind of decided for myself that that's not really the route I want to take. I'm better off waiting until the time when you sort of apply to like the smaller businesses in like the second term, because for me, well, for one thing, like with the big computer science grad schemes, they are more designed either for computer science undergrads or for advanced computer science grads. So for us, like the big grad schemes are kind of going to be quite hard to get onto. So for me, I think I'm going to focus on like small to medium sized businesses or research labs or something like that. R&D.
Yeah.
I saw, for instance, there was recently a internship posting that I narrowly missed for DeepMind, who are looking for socio-technical research engineers.
I mean, that sounds sick.
So basically, if I can be involved in the research and development of algorithms with a kind of social bent, then that would probably be the ideal career for me at the moment.
Yeah, well, as you say, the fact that we have like other skills from another degree and can bring it into computer science, I think is so valuable and makes us really interesting. But also, so we had a placement lecture a couple of days ago.
Pissed myself. I was sweating.
Literally. Well, so they had a panel of people who are on their year in industry. Great, really useful. All the people on the panel they're all on like advanced computing or something as their masters. They'd all done undergrads in computer science. They all had multiple products under their belt. And as you say, like they ticked all the boxes for big companies. And I asked my academic advisor, tutor, about this. Sort of like, we don't have any of these boxes ticked. And so like, what are we best going for? Like the smaller companies better? And as you say, because we don't quite fit into the boxes they want, I think it makes more sense. But just finding like the roles, I'm currently just trying to research simply what are the things out there.
Yeah, that's the trouble with like it being such a new industry, is that like every company has like a slightly different terminology of what they want.
Yeah, exactly.
Which, on one hand, presents great opportunity because there's a niche, and you'll probably find a niche if you look hard enough. But on the other hand, it means it's not like you can. It's not like, oh, I'm an accountant, I'll go and get an accounting placement.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
it's not like
understand.
I'm a lawyer, I'm going to work in the solicitors. Like you've got, there's so many different like job titles that you could be doing, kind of broadly similar sort of things on.
Yeah.
So, that's just a side effect of it being a kind of new profession.
Yeah, and so, yeah, just there's no like definitive path. Also, that's good, I suppose, and this is again where like small industries are useful because we can bring alternative skills. I really want to, at some point, I don't know how I'm going to get there or how I want to. I really want to work for either Apple or Google eventually, and I don't really know why. It's sort of like my longing to at some point live in London.
Yeah.
Though apparently the whole working for is it FANG companies? Yeah, Facebook, Apple, Netflix, Google.
Yeah.
Apparently they're a bit overhyped.
Yeah.
But
I can see that.
I do want to. I would like to move to Silicon Valley at some point, but I think I just want to be doing something interesting, and a particular thing which I'm like striving for in like my future is, I talk about this far too much on the channel, is how like I understand that lots of people seem to be sort of chained, or not chained, but doing a job they don't particularly like, so they can fund the lifestyle outside of that. But I'd rather live a lot less under less than my means, and then have the freedom to pick the projects and the things that I want to do.
Very Aristotelian.
Yeah.
Politics.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Whatever that is.
Basically, Aristotle, I believe, said you should work to permit leisure, not work for work's sake.
Yeah.
So you only need as much money as which services or your desires for leisure.
Yeah, well, this is what my sort of the moral for this year is, and I'm going to make a video on it whenever the year's up. The whole idea for this year is basically just like intention, because I found that in the past, and I probably still do it a lot, I just did a lot of stuff because I felt like I needed to. And like the classic, like you buy things to impress people you don't like, you don't want them.
Yeah.
And so like by trying to be a little bit more intentional, whether it's, I don't know, buying cheap chocolate biscuits instead of Ben & Jerry's. I don't know. So then I can like do more. Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, that's really interesting to hear what you want to get up to in the future. I think we'll end it vaguely there. It's a lot longer than I promised. Thank you so much for letting me talk to you. Yeah. See you later.
Peace
Bye.
out.